Forget everything you think you know about success. For decades, the American dream was simple. Work harder, climb the ladder faster, and retire rich. We called it the hustle culture. But there's a new generation in the US workforce, and they're looking at that ladder and saying, no thanks. They're labeled the lazy generation, the entitled, or the anti-work crowd. But look closer. Generation Z, those born roughly between 1997 and 2012, is quietly orchestrating the biggest shift in US labor dynamics since the post-war era. They are not rejecting wealth. They're rejecting the toxic path to it. They are rejecting the get-rich-quick hustle, not because they are financially unambitious, but because they are strategically smarter. This isn't a rebellion, it's an evolution. Today, we dive into the 4 seismic forces driving Gen Z's quiet rejection of hustle culture, and what this paradigm shift means for the future of the American economy, corporate America, and the very definition of success. To understand the Gen Z mindset, you must first understand the world they inherited. They grew up on a steady diet of economic instability, not unprecedented growth. The next layer of disillusionment is purely quantitative. We're often told that wages are rising, but Gen Z looks at the real numbers, the cost of living. Consider this data point. The median home price in the US has risen over 50% in the last decade alone. Meanwhile, real wage growth has barely kept pace with inflation, let alone outpaced it enough to make major purchases achievable. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the total student loan debt in the U.S. now exceeds $1.7 trillion, a burden crushing younger workers' ability to invest, start families, or buy homes. Gen Z is graduating into the workforce already handicapped by debt and staggering costs of living. They see the get-rich-quick guru promising a 7-figure income, but they also see the astronomical, almost unreachable price tags on stability. To them, getting rich isn't about buying a yacht. It's about being able to afford a decent apartment and not having panic attacks about medical bills. The definition of rich has simply devolved to secure.
Gen Z is the first generation to be constantly bombarded by promises of instant wealth through social media. They've seen the rise and, crucially, the fall of countless digital gold rushes. The crypto crash, the NFT bubbles, the endless stream of affiliate marketing scams, and the drop-shipping millionaires. They've learned a vital lesson that previous generations took decades to grasp. If it sounds too good to be true, it's a pump-and-dump scheme. Their skepticism is an asset. They are highly attuned to the signs of a bubble, and they recognize that the hustle, the grind for someone else's company, or the blind chase after fleeting digital trends is often just a sophisticated way to enrich the few at the top. They are choosing sustainability over speed, a choice rooted in economic realism, not laziness. This rejection of the old path is being fueled by a profound redefinition of success, driven by prioritizing non-monetary assets. For Gen Z, mental and emotional well-being is non-negotiable. For previous generations, talking about burnout or anxiety in the workplace was often seen as a weakness. For Gen Z, it is a statement of strength and self-preservation. The pandemic highlighted the fragility of mental health when life's boundaries dissolve. A 2023 Deloitte study found that 50% of Gen Z reported feeling burned out. Their response isn't to take a vacation, it's to redesign their professional lives entirely to avoid the conditions that lead to burnout in the first place. They've consciously broadened the definition of wealth. Wealth is no longer just the balance in your bank account. It is the time you have to pursue passions, the health you maintain, and the quality of your relationships. If a high-paying job requires the sacrifice of these assets, the trade-off is simply not worth it. The old adage, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time, has become their central economic principle. Gen Z demands that their work and the companies they work for align with their personal ethics and social values.
They are highly conscious of environmental damage, social injustice, and corporate accountability. They are, in essence, moral auditors of the business world. This leads to a phenomenon where a high salary alone cannot compensate for a low sense of purpose. A job at an ethically questionable but highly lucrative company is often seen as a moral deficit. According to a 2024 survey by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, 75% of Gen Z employees believe that a company's social impact is more important than the salary offered. This is why we see high turnover rates at companies that fail to meet ESG standards. They are willing to take a pay cut to work for a B Corp or a mission-driven organization. They are weaponizing their labor, using their skills to enforce corporate responsibility. The infamous trend of quiet quitting, doing the bare minimum required by the job description, isn't laziness, it's a strategic withdrawal. It is the ultimate boundary-setting mechanism against toxic productivity. It's a clear message to employers. I will be paid for 40 hours, and I will deliver 40 hours of work. Anything beyond that is a gift, not an expectation. This response is a direct reaction to decades of wage stagnation and increased workload without proportional compensation. Gen Z understood that working 80 hours a week for a 40-hour salary isn't hustle, it's exploitation. Quiet quitting is their way of reclaiming their labor value and, more importantly, their time. They are trading the potential for a fractional bonus for the certainty of a predictable, balanced life.
The digital landscape that exposed them to scams also provided them with the tools to build their own independent economy. Why commit all your time and security to one employer when the internet allows for diversified income streams? Gen Z views a single, full-time job not as a foundation, but as a single point of failure. They are masters of the gig economy. They are creators, freelancers, and consultants. They prefer having 5 streams of income: a main job, a freelance gig, a digital product, a small investment portfolio, and a content creation revenue stream over one high-paying, rigid corporate role. This strategy is about mitigating risk. If one job fails, the other 4 provide a safety net. This is the new financial security: diversification of labor. The power is shifted from the employer, who controls the single paycheck, to the individual, who controls the multiple pipelines. Gen Z is the first generation to enter the workforce fully aware that 80% of routine white-collar tasks could be automated by advanced AI within the next decade. This awareness is driving a fundamental change in their skill selection. They are not focused on becoming efficient cogs in a machine, they are focused on becoming uncopyable. They are prioritizing skills that AI cannot yet master: emotional intelligence, complex problem-solving, ethical decision-making, and high-level creativity. They see the future of work not as performing tasks, but as directing AI to perform tasks. This strategic pivot means that when they do commit to a job, they are looking for roles that utilize these uniquely human skills, making their labor invaluable and less susceptible to technological obsolescence. Driven by both scarcity, a tight labor market, and self-worth, the value-first mindset, Gen Z is a fierce negotiator. They have seen the data, they understand market rates, and they are not afraid to demand flexibility, better benefits, and higher real wages. We are seeing a resurgence of employee activism, not just in traditional sectors, but in white-collar and tech environments. They have weaponized social media to expose unfair labor practices and share salary information transparently, thus eroding the corporate advantage in wage negotiation. The power dynamic is changing. Companies that refuse to adapt to flexible work models, offer transparent career paths, and prioritize mental health are suffering chronic talent shortages, which only reinforces Gen Z's leverage. So what does this Gen Z revolution mean for corporate America? It's not a temporary fad, it is a permanent structural change. The corporate mandate for change. Companies can no longer attract top talent with lavish perks and high salaries alone. They must fundamentally redefine their relationship with their employees. This means flexibility as standard. Remote or hybrid work is now a baseline expectation, not a benefit. Focus on output, not hours. Implementing results-driven metrics instead of time and seat monitoring. Ethical transparency. Demonstrating genuine commitment to social and environmental causes, not just greenwashing.
investing in wellness, integrating mental health support and mandatory time off policies directly into the corporate structure. The evolution of success. The rejection of get-rich-quick is ironically the embrace of a more sustainable, long-term form of wealth creation. Gen Z is building their lives on the principle of longevity, a life where their career serves their life, not the other way around. Their success isn't measured by the speed of their ascent, but the quality of their balance. This generation is forcing the U.S. economy to confront its deepest inequalities, the wage gap, the healthcare crisis, and the crippling student debt burden. They are not merely adapting to a broken system, they are demanding that the system be fixed. A call to action for the viewer. Whether you are an employer, an older worker, or part of Gen Z, the lesson is clear. Success must be redefined. It's time to stop measuring hustle and start measuring value. Value in your work, value in your time, and value in your life. The generation that watched the bubbles burst and the safety nets disappear has taught us that true wealth is not about accumulating more, but about having the freedom to choose your time. Why hustle for 80 hours a week for a life you can't enjoy when you can work strategically for 40 and build a life that serves you? This is the anti-hustle generation, and their revolution is only just beginning.